On the 1st of May, 2 Indian soldiers were ambushed and beheaded in the Krishna Ghati sector of the line of control. Only today do we know that precisely 1 week after that, on the 9th and 10th of May, here's what the Indian Army did, and here's how it took revenge. This was in the Nowshera sector along the line of control in the Rajouri district of Jammu and Kashmir, where Indian Army positions extracted retribution and revenge on the Pakistan Army posts that aided in terrorist infiltrations. An unspecified number of casualties have been inflicted, and as you can see in these dramatic pictures released officially by the Indian Army earlier today, and first on India Today, Pakistan bunkers, Pakistan Army positions completely obliterated by serial and aggressive firing by the Indian Army.
As part of our counter-terrorism operations, punitive fire assaults across line of control are being undertaken by the Indian Army. Pak Army has been providing support to the armed infiltrators by engaging our forward troops from their weapon emplacements and pillboxes closer to the line of control. At times, they are even not hesitated to target villages in the proximity of line of control. As part of our counter-terrorism strategy, and to ensure that infiltration is curbed, an initiative remains with us. Indian Army proactively dominates line of control.
Joined now live and exclusive by the BJP's Dr. Subramanian Swamy, who has on the record and explicitly called for the military option to be exercised. Dr. Swamy, your first reactions to this operation that has been revealed formally today by the Indian Army?
Well, it's a part of the graded response I had been recommending for quite some time in the media.
Yes.
It is a first step. It's something that the Pakistanis have to learn. The last 2 weeks since the action of ours, they have been very quiet. But if they don't cease their activities, then we must go to a step higher, and that is to bomb the camps. There are about 41 camps in the POK, and they need to be bombed. And of course, there are further escalations if Pakistan continues to behave foolishly. But I think Pakistan should learn that in Saudi Arabia, the Prime Minister was completely humiliated. He was treated as some kind of appendage who nobody wanted to have anything to do with.
Yes.
They are now regarded as kind of, I don't like to use the word pariah, but the fact is that they are, in the sense that the English word pariah, which means that someone whom nobody wants to associate with, and this is a gradual degeneration of Pakistan, and I think Pakistan should learn not to go forward. But our Prime Minister's resolve is also very clear.
Yes.
That we will tolerate it up to a point, and then we will retaliate.
Dr. Swamy, on the 18th of May, I just want to read out your tweet. Like you were saying, you've spoken about this in the media before as well. On the day that India got its interim order at the International Court of Justice, you said, first we win the interim stage in ICJ, then we must prepare the military option to convert Pakistan into four, for a long-lasting option. You've specifically said, convert Pakistan into four, Dr. Swamy. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yes. Well, we have in our country received a tremendous amount of information that the Baluchistan, Pakhtunistan and Sindh don't want to be anymore with Punjab, West Punjab. And the West Punjab is dominating the army, is dominating the ISI, is dominating the terrorists. So, and then they are running the show. The civilian thing has become a dummy. So, I think four means four pieces. And we should start first with Baluchistan and then Sindh and then Pakhtunistan. Because this is a problem which can't be resolved just by talking with Pakistan. 4 times we have gone to war, and it causes unnecessary distraction for us, and we can't go on like this, you see. So somewhere or the other we have to settle this problem finally, and in my opinion Pakistan was never a viable country. It was foisted on us by the British and the foolishness of the Congress party.
Okay.
And therefore now we have to rectify that, and we have already made Pakistan into 2. Now whatever is left of Pakistan we should make into 4.
Dr. Swamy, you know, how far does this graded response that you're prescribing actually go? You know, you said you've spoken about it before, but considering that India and Pakistan are nuclear neighbors, both are powerfully armed, how far can a graded response, militarily speaking, actually and justifiably go, sir?
The nuclear installations are under the control of the Americans. You don't have to worry about that. And Pakistan will be committing suicide if they use nuclear weapons, because there will be no Pakistan left after that. Instead of 4, there will be 0. So I don't think nuclear is an option in India-Pakistan conflict.
So are you saying that, you know, recovery of territory, you know, which has so far been strategically unthinkable, should be something that India you know, should keep on the table as far as a military option is concerned, because that is something that, you know, our military planners don't even talk about. Is that something that's on the table?
No, they don't talk about it, but contingency plans are there. But you see, you must remember that in 1994, Narasimha Rao had a resolution passed that we will not rest till we recover all the territory which is in the occupation of Pakistan. We are committed to it, and our constitution also doesn't permit giving away even 1 inch of our territory. So therefore we have to keep that possibility and prepare for it. But in the meantime we can grade. Next we can knock off the most favored nation clause, we can close down their embassy, we can scrap the that Indus Valley, Indus River treaty.
Yes.
So there are plenty of intermediate options, and then we should target those camps in which Hafiz Saeed comes and stays. We'll get intelligence, I'm sure, when he comes, and then you should bomb it at that time.
You know, Dr. Swamy, when you say we should bomb those camps, are you talking about more surgical strikes? Are you also talking about the application of air power against these camps in POK?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. The Air Force should go and bomb them and come back.
And you know, as far as...
There should be an air strike.
Yes.
You can use drones also. By the way, just 1 minute.
Yes.
Just 1 minute. We can also use drones, by the way. We've got lots of good drones now. And we don't have to have any human endeavor in that.
You know, Dr. Swamy, one of the things that has changed since September last year when the surgical strikes happened is not only the aggressive posture that the Indian Army has been able to, demonstrate on the border with political backing, but also the ability to talk about it and present it to the public, which is obviously, a political decision. How do you feel about, these things which are usually, kept out of bounds of public domain, now, officially revealed in press conferences, sir?
Oh yeah, it is. The morale has to be raised of the Indian public. They have been seeing too much of beating, too much of goody-goody speeches. Now they want some morale to be raised, and this morale can be raised only by such visual presentation. And we are really owe it to the Prime Minister, because he is a very decisive man, and he thinks and takes time, but in the end he decides, and this is what has happened.
But do you think it's sustainable, Dr. Swamy? Because, at the tactical level, strikes and counter-strikes of this kind happen, fairly often. It's only now that we're getting to see them in the flesh in terms of these official releases and videos. Do you think that's sustainable in keeping with that graded response that you prescribe, sir?
Yeah, it's because Pakistan is a crumbling state. They don't have a civilian authority. All their so-called states are in flames and discontent. Iran is the neighbor of Pakistan. They don't like them. Afghanistan is against them. And we need to do a little diplomacy with China and tell them that, listen, on this you have got to keep quiet.
Yeah.
And I think there are ways to do it. I mean, the Chinese are rational people. We must talk to them. We have not talked to them. And there's one of my grievances with our government. I said, you must seriously talk to them and have a strategic understanding that there are things, because there are Chinese things that Chinese want from us, which we are not giving to them. We can tell them that we'll give that. One of them is our relationship with China when China and America fight.
Yes.
I think the best thing for us to do is to be neutral. Unless, of course, China provokes the United States, then, of course, as a party which has provoked, we'll have to be with the other side. But otherwise, in this rivalry between America and United States and China, China should know that we are not going to take sides. For instance, South Sea Islands, there's no need for us to take any sides. This should be settled by discussion. That is that's the kind of platitudes we should speak.
Absolutely. You were talking about morale, so the last question I want to ask you, pertains to that, Dr. Swamy, before I let you go, is, we follow you on, we follow all your movements on social media. You travel quite a bit, you give lectures everywhere. Any plans to travel, spend some time with the army at the line of control, especially since you've been talking so much about the army and morale and soldiers?
I'd love to. Actually, I'm a member of the Standing Committee of Defence in Parliament, and we have a trip planned for Kashmir, and definitely I would like to go. I'd like to go to Siachen also, and the Army has always been inviting me for lectures in National Defence College. The other day, the Air Force commanders had met in the Vayu Bhavan, and I was invited to speak on our strategy for dealing with these issues. So I'm already in touch with the army, and I'm a reader of military warfare and things like that. So yes, I look forward to an opportunity to meet the Jawans and personally shake their hands for what they're doing for the country.
Morale is something we simply cannot underestimate. Dr. Subramanian Swamy, thank you very much for speaking here on India Today. Well, the country is watching, the army is watching, the political backing for the Indian military is very strong at this point of time. But things have definitely changed. Dr. Subramanian Swamy, thank you very much for joining us on 5 Live. Now, let's put that video up on your screens once again, because it's a reminder of two very big things. This video that was released today by the Indian Army not only demonstrates the aggression that the army has been permitted, but also the leeway to talk about it, to flaunt it, to show it off as a public humiliation for Pakistan. Joining me live now, former Director General Infantry, Lieutenant General Shankar Prasad. Also with us is India Today's Executive Editor Gaurav Sawant and our Pakistan correspondent from Islamabad, Hamza Amir. General Prasad, I want to quickly come to you first. Your opening reactions on this video. I know you've served in Jammu and Kashmir. You're aware of what this is all about. You also know about the political atmosphere in which this video has been officially released by the Indian Army. Your take, sir?
So this video is a part of the information that we need to share with the public. Don't see too much in this video. It is the job of the ADGPI to keep the population of India and the media informed, because a lot of things that come out in media, newspapers, television channels is really not that authentic. Really not that authentic.
Right, sure. Yeah.
The ADGPI statement and the video is now an authentic version of the government of India. This is very, very useful both for the Indian citizen as well as has impact on people in Pakistan. Therefore, this media blitz, as I would call it, should be taken into a perspective. I am not going to say that this is a great action. These kind of fire assaults have been taking place in the past.
Correct.
They will continue to take place unless Pakistan behaves itself. But I would like to make a bigger strategic point to you. Soon after Uri, the Prime Minister of India had said that we are going to have a tactical response, which the military will take at its own level at a date and time of its choosing. This is a continuation of that part of the authority which the government has given to the army.
Okay.
So it's a tactical issue of a fire assault which has taken place now. It has taken place earlier as well.
Absolutely.
What is important to see, and in continuation of certain points that Mr. Subramanian made, was that we need to now develop what the Prime Minister said is strategic response, which will mean gradual escalation to ensure that Pakistan gets the due punishment that it deserves.
Right.
This punishment may not be adequate for them. As it is, they've already put out some reports saying this has not happened. Nothing has happened. This is all fiction. I should have anticipated this. Of course, that's going to be Pakistan's way of taking it. But this video will also be seen by some people in Pakistan, whether Pakistan bans it or not. Somebody will show it, somebody will see it. And then they will come to know how a big liar their army is. And as Mr. Subramanian also said, the world says, Pakistan is no longer a democracy.
That's right.
Pakistan is a military martial law. It's run by the military solely and wholly. Now the point is, where is the strategic response? Is it step one of the strategic response?
Yes.
That's the question I need to find out an answer to. To my mind, yes, indeed it is. I think we have had a couple of months to prepare. Some preparations must have been done. Some preparations, some plans have been put into place. This must be the opening hand. Not even the opening hand, I would call it preliminary.
That's very interesting. You're saying you read this as the opening hand, and there could be many more things actually coming up ahead. The intensity is going to go up. If it goes up more than this, how much further can it actually go? What really happened on the 9th of May?
Need to go up if they don't behave.
Absolutely. We're going to talk about all of that. I'm going to slip into a very short break. On the other side of 5 Live, I'm going to bring our executive editor Gaurav Sawant in. He's been talking to his sources in the army headquarters, including officers who are part of this counter-strike. And we're going to get you the most authentic account of what happened that was captured in that video you've seen here on India. The video that everyone's looking at, the video that's gone viral all across the country, the video that everyone's talking about. And you saw it first here on India Today. This is the May 9th retaliatory strike by the Indian Army on Pakistan Army bunkers and posts in the Nowshera sector. I want to quickly bring in India Today's executive editor Gaurav Sawant, who's been at the forefront of bringing us this story and expanding the details. First here on India Today, Gaurav, take us through this particular operation. Was it a retaliation, as is being reported, Gaurav, to the beheadings that took place just 1 week before that, just north in the Krishna Ghati sector? What are your sources telling you?
Shiv, General Narula, the Additional Director General, said that a series of strikes have been carried out, but while the video that was released was only of the Nowshera sector, but a series of punitive strikes have been carried out along the Pir Panjal sector. The aim is to tell Pakistan that infiltration, aiding terrorism, it will not be cost-effective, will not be a cost-effective option for Pakistan. But this hasn't deterred Pakistan, as you and I well know, Shiv. While this incident took place on the 9th, there have been a series of other punitive strikes that have been carried out before and subsequently. There was a big infiltration attempt on the 21st where 4 terrorists were killed, but we also lost 3 braves. So, the army carries out some strikes. There is a debate on what kind of impact these strikes have. Again, is this more mind games that the army is playing or the government is playing, either with own people or across, or is there a bigger definitive impact? The aim is to deter Pakistan from pushing in infiltrators, but that doesn't appear to be happening, because army's own assessment is that in the year 2017 it will be a hot summer. There is intelligence input about a large number of terrorist training camps having been activated and terrorists having been put along on launch pads. So this strike, Nowshera images released, more strikes happening across south of Pir Panjal, more preparations even north of Pir Panjal, but it remains to be seen. India's response is more reactive. When Pakistan does something, India reacts. Will the army take the initiative to be more proactive? Remains to be seen.
Proactive, brings me to the question about, the possibility of many more border action teams preparing, for more infiltrations like what we just saw in the Naugam sector. Gaurav, we understand that in Poonch and several other sectors, there have been border action team activities, reported by intelligence agencies, which means that Pakistan is obviously looking to ramp things up a little bit before the winter months actually set in. And what has happened now with this public humiliation, not just in Nowshera, but like you said, in other sectors as well, a response will, reasonably be expected.
Shiv, on the 9th, the army says this strike was carried out in the Nowshera sector. Preparations for it had started even when we were on ground zero reporting on the impact of that, of the beheading and mutilation of our troops. Some impact immediately, some subsequently. But if you recall, this happened on the 9th. On the 13th, ISPR, or Pakistan Army's spokesperson, issued a statement that what Indian Army is doing is unacceptable. It could lead to an escalation and the impact could be catastrophic for both sides. So Pakistan Army is hurting. But is it hurting enough to deter Pakistan Army to push in more infiltrators? What is also remarkable, Shiv, is the fact that the Pakistan Army Chief General Qamar Javed Bajwa has visited the line of control not once, not twice, but thrice in the recent past, and that is very unique. An army chief in Pakistan who's facing more trouble on his northern borders, on his western borders, facing the Indian Army, and the eastern borders, and visiting the LC thrice. And this goes on to show that Pakistan Army is preparing for something. You'd also recall, Shiv, that the air chief issued a letter to all personnel saying be prepared for something. So something is cooking. What's cooking? The army is keeping its cards very close to his chest, but there is a lot of engagement that's happening within the services and preparations along the line of control, all in an effort, as the armed forces say, to deter Pakistan from pushing in more infiltrators.
Gaurav, I know you need to go and speak to your sources, so I'm just going to let you off after just one final question, which a lot of people are very curious about at this time. Last year when the surgical strikes happened and the Indian Army held that press conference officially revealing the details, of that strike, it was a surprise to everyone. It made history because, these are things that are never really spoken about, certainly not on the record or, trumpeted in this manner. Today, again, there was a press conference where this video was released and these, this piece of information was put out into the public domain. Is this, apart from it being a manifestation of the political will and the political weight behind the army to speak about these operations and humiliate Pakistan in public, Gaurav, is this going to be standard operating procedure going forward?
It does appear so. Even though you'd recall, Shiv, you and I put out a video very recently which the army officially had not put out then. But when India Today put out that video, the army did concede that that was a video of a couple of weeks earlier, where again anti-tank guided missiles were used to destroy one bunker again along the same sector south of Pir Panjal. So the army has been carrying out a series of such strikes, punitive strikes, as the army says. Their aim are twofold. One, deter Pakistan from pushing in infiltrators. Two, and which is more significant, permanently destroy Pakistan's defenses along the line of control and not let them rebuild it. And that is where, Indian Army hopes it will deter Pakistan, because when Pakistan tries to rebuild them, there is firing and then they're unable to build it. So either Pakistan sues for peace, seeks to rebuild that bunker or that post, or Pakistan Army is left defenseless in that area. And that is what Indian Army is doing, not just destroying posts that push in infiltrators, but destroying posts where Pakistan Army needs to be weakened further at the LC.
Thanks very much, Gaurav. We leave it there for the moment. Thanks for those details. It's enough to build this story and tell our viewers precisely what happened there. I want to bring in for a first reaction from Pakistan, Tariq Pirzada, political analyst who's with us on the phone line from Pakistan. Mr. Pirzada, this video put out officially, not leaked, not sourced, but officially put out by the Indian Army today, showing pretty decisive action in the Nowshera sector against your country's army's posts.
Well, let me say one thing. If you're talking about one, bombing event by the Indians, we have reported that India has attacked and violated the LOC for more than 266 times. This is the official position of Pakistan. So if there is one country that is in denial, that is India. Because when we attack, when we launch a counter-attack and kill Indian soldiers, you just don't even tell your people. You just bury their bodies and hide.
You appear to be talking about your own country, sir, because here we can't hide that sort of thing. We don't have the capability to hide the deaths of Indian soldiers.
Number two, you just admitted one thing. A few minutes ago, I was on a different channel, and your army spokesperson was talking about damaging Pakistani military posts. While your media and you are reporting that 16 Pakistani posts have been destroyed. So who is correct? Your army spokesperson or the reporters who are more loyal to the army than the army
I'm
itself.
sorry, you know, on India Today, we speak for ourselves. We don't speak for other channels or other reporters. You know, unlike your country, we're not one media where everybody reports the same thing under fear from the ISI or the Pakistan army. We're all independent journalists here, so I can't answer for other journalists and other channels. But my simple question to you is, this is a video that's not been leaked by the ISI or put out by sources. This has been officially released by the Indian Army. It's the first time a video of this kind has been officially released at a press conference by the Indian Army. How do you read that?
Big video that you released, and you bragged about it, and we finally proved that that was a bizarre video. It was much older. It was a mix of
that wasn't officially released by the army. That wasn't officially released by the army, Mr. Pirzada.
Sheer falsehood.
Now I'm asking you, I'm asking you a non-rhetorical. I'm asking you, Mr. Pirzada, I know you like rhetoric. I'm asking you a non-rhetorical, unloaded, reasonable, moderate question. I'm asking you your reading of the Pakistan of the Indian Army officially releasing. Officially releasing a video of this kind, which is a bit of a milestone.
Official propaganda.
Okay, you're saying it's propaganda.
Propaganda.
Okay.
Indian Army excels in lying, excels in fabricating the facts. It keeps coming up with alternative facts. They believe in optional optional facts that they create all the time. This is the new lexicon. It's the new age. This is the new Indian Army excelling in fabricating falsehood.
The fact is, when it comes to credibility, I think there's no real comparison between India and Pakistan. I don't mean that disrespectfully, but that's the way it is. Let's be realistic about who believes India and who believes Pakistan when it comes to operations of this kind, Mr. Pirzada. Simple question to you is, going forward now, is this how it's going to be? The Indian Army now has the full political backing to tell the world about every single time it humiliates Pakistan or retaliates against Pakistani aggression on the border. So everything that happens to Pakistan is now going to be in Technicolor, on video and officially outside.
International court begging before them, please help us liberate that person. If you have any stomach, if you have any backbone, if you have any spine, come and challenge Pakistan.
Okay, Tariq Pirzada, I'm going to have to cut you off because our very own hero, we know you don't honor your heroes, but Major Lethal Gogoi, who's been honored by the Indian Army for the human shield incident on the Jeep, is speaking live. Let's listen.
On the same day, on 9:15 a.m., I received a call from an officer in charge of Utligam and Gundipura polling station. He was from ITBP. He informed me through his telephone that there were some around 400 to 500 people gathered in Gundipura, and they were pelting stones to the polling staff, civil polling staff, to the ITBP peoples. Those were inside the polling stations. And without wasting any time, myself with my quick reaction team, we rushed towards Gundipura. While moving towards Gundipura, we have encountered many roadblocks which we further cleared and moved ahead for Gundipura. And within 30 minutes, we reached Gundipura, and there we took control of the situations. We dispersed the mob. And further, myself along with my 4 boys has gone inside the polling booth just to check whether the security forces and the civil staff were safe and secure. And in the meantime, again I received a call at 10:30 when I was there in Gundipura from the same ITBP officers, and it was a distress call. He informed me that some around 1200 people have surrounded them in Utligam polling station, and they were trying to burn down the polling station by hurling petrol bombs. By hearing this on my phone, I immediately rushed to the scenario, and which was at a distance of 1.5 kilometers from Gundipura. And while moving towards Utligam, again we have encountered many roadblocks which we further cleared and reached the spot. When we reached the spot, already the crowd have started pelting stone at us, and that time it was included the ladies and the children, and we were unable to move out from our vehicles. And even they were hurling stones boulders from the rooftops. And that was a time where I was unable to move out, and even I was making repeatedly announcing through my megaphone that we are just arrived here to rescue the polling staff and the ITBP persons, those who got stuck inside the polling stations. But the crowd were not listening to me. And at that moment of time, I saw a person, a short person, standing in front of me at a distance of 30 meters from my vehicle. I immediately told my QRT boys to catch hold of him. And in my direction, my QRT boys, they were 5, and along with me, we immediately moved out from our vehicle and started running towards the stone pelter, which we have found later on he was the I mean to say that he was the person who was instigating them, and he might be the ringleader. And on seeing us, we are moving towards him. He noted it and he started running himself towards the crowd. And he himself got in a bike and tried to flee away from the scene. But somehow, despite intense stone pelting and getting hurt, we caught hold of him. And he was known by the name Mr. Farooq Ahmed Dar, who is a resident of Steel, and the incidents happened at Utligam, which was at a distance of 20 kilometers from his residence place. After holding him, we started walking towards the polling booth, and before reaching the polling booth, there was a mine-protected vehicle standing on the road of ITBP. Along with that help, we moved towards the polling station. Once we got inside the polling station, I rescued 4 civil polling staff, 7 ITBP persons, and 1 Jammu Kashmir police constable. From there, we safely started moving towards the road. But at the meantime, again, my mine-protected vehicle got stuck in a muddy area, in which, seeing us, again the stone pelting have started. And that time, it was also an announcement made in the mosques, and with that announcement, the civilian has started gathering, and that time they were more violent. Even they were thrown a petrol bomb on us, but somehow that petrol bomb did not burst it. And by seeing this, I instructed my boys to somehow move out the mine-protected vehicle from that area, and they tried to do it. And we managed to rescue the mine-protected vehicle. And in the meantime, again I announced in my megaphone that give us a safe passage so that we can move out from the area. But the crowd were not listening to us. At that moment of time, suddenly in my mind, the idea of tying him up in the vehicle have came up. And as soon as I ordered my boys to tie him up in the vehicle, by seeing this, the stone pelting had stopped for a while. And that was a fraction of moment where I got a window to come out safely from that place. And immediately I informed all my boys to get inside the vehicles, and we move out from that area. These things I have only done to save the local people. Had it been I have fired, there would be more than 12 casualties, which I have not done. But with this idea, I have saved many people's lives. Those were 1200 stone pelters, including those boys whom I have came to rescue them. That's all I want to say. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Sir, was this our last resort?
So will you do it again if there is such a situation?
It was Major Litul Gogoi of the Indian Army, the officer who shot into the spotlight for that dynamic decision he took in Jammu and Kashmir during the recent elections, where he decided to tie this man to an army jeep as a human shield to protect an election commission team that was functioning in the area. Well, no harm was brought to this particular man, but this incident created a huge controversy. Well, a court of inquiry into this incident is nearly complete, and Major Litul Gogoi, who you just saw addressing a press conference, which is an indication that the army is completely behind him, as is the government, has been awarded a Chief of Army Staff's Commendation Badge for this action. All right, joining us live now, we'll have our reporter from Srinagar in just a moment. I quickly want to bring in Major General S.K. Murthy, well-known defense expert, who's with us here. We brought him in on the Indian Army's action on the line of control, but I'd like to put a question to him on this as well. General Murthy, Major Litul Gogoi, receiving the Chief of Army Staff's commendation and also holding a press conference where he's had his first opportunity, sir, to detail the decision to actually tie that man to the jeep and use him as a human shield. Clearly the army wanting to explain to the public at large that this was a difficult decision in a dynamic and dangerous situation.
Undoubtedly so. The action by this young officer was exemplary. This whole Kashmir issue has been virtually stalemated.
Yes.
There is no difference from what we are doing today to what was being done about 20 years back.
Right.
This young officer has introduced an element of out-of-the-box thinking. It's really something that's to be lauded, and I'm glad the chief has also given his commendation. Normally chief's commendations also take a long time to be awarded, but here was an example where the new chief, who's also a very dynamic person, has taken the decision to award his commendation literally on the spot.
General Murthy, given that this was a controversial decision, but nevertheless one that has now been explained by the army, not in terms of just the press conference, but also awarding the officer, which is basically, an unignorable signal that the army appreciates and commends the decision making by this brave young officer. Would you say that something like this can be standard operating procedure, or it has to strictly be taken on a case-to-case basis, depending on the situation and depending on the circumstances?
No, it can't be a standard operating procedure. It has to be done case-by-case basis. Every situation is different, and the young officers are the people who bear the brunt of it, who face the consequences, and who are the best people to take decision on the spot. The more we empower the younger officers, the better it is. At this point, I'd like to highlight one issue relating to young officers. The army is woefully short of young officers. Although there are a large number of people, who are quite competent and capable of joining the Indian Armed Forces, for one reason or another, the availability of young officers in battalions is extremely low. This is an issue that needs to be addressed, and more power needs to be handed into the hands of the young officers.
Has this, General Murthy, you would know all about issues of morale. You've been in service, you've served with the army in Jammu and Kashmir as well. So you know what morale means to the ranks, morale means to the men. All eyes, ever since this Jeep incident took place, this human shield incident took place, one of the concerns was that depending on what happens to Major Litul Gogoi, it will have some kind of an impact on the morale of men on the ground operating in those dynamic, dangerous environments. So has that been a factor as well in keeping with the army and the political establishment's full support of this young officer?
Indian Army's morale is generally always very good. Indian Army is steadfast in its resolve to do what it is told to do. This young officer's incident, of course, does bring in a surge in that morale for a short period of time.
Right.
But we need many more such events and incidents which would sustain it at a high level.
Okay. Just to understand something, very clearly, General Murthy, out-of-the-box thinking is, has a certain premium in the military. Out-of-the-box thinking, especially when it comes to tricky situations, where life and limb can be at risk, which is very often for the army, especially in places like Jammu and Kashmir and the Northeast. But this incident, the awarding of this officer and, the establishment getting fully behind him, permitting him to hold a press conference to explain the decision and the entire situation, does this amplify, the tradition in the army and the military that quick thinking, out-of-the-box thinking, the bigger picture, even in a small tactical situation, will always command a premium, no matter how senior or junior you are in the service?
Very definitely so. You see, the key issue in this particular case was this young officer wanted to avoid local casualties. That was his main driving agenda. At the same time, he had a task to perform, that was to escort an election team across. How he did this, how he handled this was, to his mind, in the best possible manner, and he feels satisfied at the end of it all that he's done a good job, regardless of the controversy that certain ill-informed and ill-advised groups are raising.
General Murthy, you know, one final question on this particular issue before we get a conversation that we've had with Major Gogoi himself. The question is, you know, Major Gogoi reported this incident to his seniors. There was a lot of media spotlight, speculation. There were TV debates about whether this was right and wrong. Human rights organizations, both in India and abroad, went gaga over this issue, saying that this is a shame. This has painted India in very broad light. So how difficult would it have been for the army and the system to ignore all of that, put all of those things aside and say, this man did the right thing at the right time, facing very, very difficult odds?
While it had no impact at all, I'm sure, as far as the battalion is concerned, but definitely one feels a little disheartened if your countrymen are not with you at this time of crisis. You see, it's very easy to sit and pontificate from Delhi or Bombay or from various places where people are talking from. It's very difficult for the man on ground to do the job that he is doing, and under the circumstances he did the best he could with the resources he had and within the time in which he was expected to deliver. It is definitely disheartening. It's definitely
yes,
it leaves a sour taste when you feel that there are people who don't understand the situation and yet make comments and pass ill-advised comments.
Okay. Major General S.K. Murthy, thank you very much. Continue to stay with us. We're taking a very...